Let me get make sure.
Yeah, I was just watching a little of your last podcast. So did you do all that live, like or did you splice that together afterwards?
Which one? The DYOJO podcast itself?
Yeah.
So those I've been recording, and then splicing together.
Okay.
And then so this you're experimental. This is the first attempt to do a live one. So
nice. Well, I liked all the Back to the Future stuff.
Good. Let's see. Okay, so I think we're live on everywhere. Let me pull up my questions and whatnot. My inbox. Okay, I'm gonna run the intro real quick. Okay. Cool. There we go. Now we're official. So by one of our guests, Ed Cross, he's the restoration lawyer, and he put that together. So
that's awesome.
Okay. I guess I'm going to skip ahead because you've had for a long time, like on Twitter, the CXQOTD and the ICMI chat. So I see those all the time posted on Twitter. You innovated this. You created live Twitter videos. I mean, nobody else had done it prior to you, correct?
It's a good question. Maybe at least in the customer experience community.
Well, and that what's really cool is what you do, and I think a lot of people try to emulate that, is when they go up, people engage while you're on Twitter, and then you can address the questions and those kinds of things. Kind of from a live standpoint, which is the interaction and the engagement is really cool to see. When did you kind of get the idea for that? How did that all start?
So I think when you think about ICMI chat and CXQOTD, they're actually like two different things, sort of. But the common tie between them is that that it's about, if you look at that hashtag and think of it as a community that you're trying to connect with and tap into, find other people watching that hashtag and who are probably like-minded, talking about the same things that you're interested in. That's one of the, Twitter is a massive beast of information, and you have to figure out how to connect with other like-minded people, and that's. So the CX question of the day was really something, I think, right around when COVID started, just trying to think of a way to connect with the CX customer experience community in a new way.
Yeah.
So I've just been putting out a question every day. Some other people have filled in here and there, and tagging people using the hashtag. And I probably get... I think Monday I had one person, but sure. on a good day, it might be 5 to 10 people weigh in with their opinion. And it's not really a I'm right, you're wrong thing, but more of a let's kind of build and they turn into great blog posts too, because you get perspectives from a lot of different people on whatever topic that we're talking about.
Well, and so just to clarify for people, so the CX is customer experience, right? Customer experience question of the day.
Yeah.
And then the ICMI, what's the ICMI? I know what chat is, but what's ICMI?
So ICMI is just an organization. They do conferences and stuff, but they're focused on contact centers. And the Twitter chat, if you've never done that, there's you can Google and find Twitter chats on all sorts of topics. But the typical format is you'll block out an hour, somebody will post a question and then you respond with your answers. Other people respond with their answers. And so it's kind of it's just an online chat done over Twitter. But I've really enjoyed that because you can make a lot of surfacey connections on Twitter, but that's a great way to start making deep connections. And then like a lot of those people I meet there will do a 30-minute FaceTime call to actually get to know each other and write guest posts on blogs. And it's just a great way to build your network in whatever industry you're in.
Well, I think that might have been initially how we met, was through Twitter, maybe even those chats. And then I think at that time we were both in Eugene, and I had we had a facilities managers group, and I think we were talking to you about maybe coming and presenting on the customer experience, if I remember correctly. Does that ring a bell?
I think so. Are you still in Eugene?
No, I'm up a little further north now in Tacoma.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
And you went the other way, right? You went south to San Diego?
Yeah, I'm nearly in Mexico.
That far? Yeah. Well, I imagine you're much warmer than it's a rainy day today up here, so not too surprising in the Seattle area, right?
Yeah, I think my Pacific Northwest hasn't quite worn off yet, so I'm still not, I'm not complaining when it's 45 in the morning and sunny.
Yeah. I don't remember. Are you originally from Eugene and went back went to San Diego, or originally from San Diego and went back?
I'm pretty much from Southern California. Yeah. I lived in Eugene for 4 years while I was working at a call center outsourcer up there, and then my wife made us move back for her work. So.
Yeah. Well, that's and your work's probably a lot more able to be remote even before all this happened, right?
Yeah. I was working. I've always kind of been in the contact center customer service space.
Yeah.
But I was working at an outsourcer up there, and then got a job doing product marketing for basically a phone communications company called 8x8, and they let me work from home exclusively. And then now I'm working for NumberBarn, which is more of a startup, and they're local. I've known these guys for years, but still we're kind of on this model where I think when COVID's done, we'll still work remotely mostly, but then we have an office that we'll go to a couple days a week probably.
Yeah. Well, so in our industry, I always like to ask the question, because it's very rare that someone sets out to be in water damage restoration. Most people don't even know what that is, right? So is little Jeremy sitting in high school thinking, one day I want to work in a call center?
Absolutely not. So I'm a little bit about me. I'm a pastor's kid.
Okay.
My dad, trained me early on to play the guitar and play the music while he preached, and I got a lot of pressure after college to go work at my dad's church. And my wife was like, it's either me or him. And I chose her. And I got a job working for a small software company in the web hosting and domain registration space, doing customer service. And I kind of did that while waiting for what my real calling in life would be and trying to figure that out. And then it took me, I don't know how long I think it took me 12 years in to realize that you can actually make a difference serving people in customer service, certainly managing people. And I think, you and I worked on this book together, and it's a lot about that, this epiphany for me, realizing that this could actually be my career, and I could actually at least make an effort at making a difference. And so yeah, that's kind of my journey in a nutshell. So I still play music and stuff, but it's not my full-time thing.
Yeah. Well, I think, so some people might be thinking why the heck would you have a call center guy right on the podcast? But a lot of the conversations we had, and exactly like you talked about with the book, which we'll get into, hopefully we'll get into your chapter, but the customer experience, right? So there's the two extremes, like when you call customer service and you have a good experience, it's almost surprising, right? You're just like, wow, they were really helpful and really polite and kind and saw it through. And then the other side, it's almost like people treat you like, well, why are you calling?
Yeah.
So it seems like in our house, like for a lot of those common services, our practice has always been just tell them you want to cancel, and then you'll get to somebody that actually can do something, that'll try to be helpful or try to keep you. So, but a lot of that applies all of our industries. Like we're in property restoration, right? It's customer service based. I mean, so many of the guys that have technical skills just butt heads with customers. They want to argue about, depth of drywall or, the type of baseboard or something like that, rather than seeing it from a customer service perspective, and solving a problem or helping somebody have, like you said, the customer experience. So what are some of those things? How do you, especially in your position, you're teaching people, organizations, how to, provide that service, and especially remotely, right? Over the phone, it's a whole lot different when you're face to face, but what are some of the things you've learned that's really helped train managers and people to provide or think better about the customer experience?
Well, it's funny that you mentioned the, threatening to cancel so you can actually get help. And I think about so often, how often do people now go on social media and it's funny being a manager, like you'll see somebody will go sign up for a Twitter account specifically to go blast your brand because you're not responding on the phone or email, or maybe something's down and Twitter's the only thing they can get to. But it is funny the games we make customers play. I have his book behind me. This guy, Shep Hyken, who's like a huge customer service, customer experience speaker. And he has this, I don't even know why it's earth shattering, but he always says like you just need to be like slightly above average.
Yeah.
The bar is really low.
Yeah.
Still, a lot of companies are waking up, but the bar is still really low. So I guess your question about how you train people, I think about, and I know we're going to talk about Tony Hsieh from Zappos later, but in his book, it's all about in the quest to make people happy, it's or deliver happiness. It's all about making meaningful connections with your customers. And really what that is recognizing where your customer is coming to you from, where they're at. Are they maybe in your industry, maybe they're freaked out because something happened, and can you match their tone and meet them where they're at, and then give them a sense of confidence that you're going to take care of them and make it right? Or I work for a company. We have a NumberBarn. We have premium phone numbers that people can buy from us, and they might say something like, hey, I want to get this phone number so I can forward to my cell phone while I'm on vacation in Switzerland. And we just try and do little things like, hey, they just told you they're going on vacation. Why don't you say, hey, I hope you have a fantastic trip? Something to build a connection with that customer. It's ultimately they're talking to you for your expertise, but if you can make a human connection with them. And we actually, the company I'm at now, we only do support over email almost exclusively. And it's like a different art form over email where you're like trying to write something that's engaging, that doesn't sound like a robot. And so you do have to be good at like knowing how to do this in writing, knowing how to do it face to face, knowing how to do it over the phone. It's a little bit different, and it takes a real professional to be able to do it. Like, don't downplay those skills if you're good at it. They are skills. In our, in the contact center industry, they call these soft skills sometimes. And my friends bang on those because these are like real skills. There's nothing soft about them.
Yeah, it's kind of the wrong connotation, right? Yeah. Well, what are the hard skills? I guess, it's funny. I like to tell people a lot, like in our industry, and I'm sure that's the same. There's very technical aspects, right? Understanding what it means to how to use a dehumidifier, how to use your moisture meter, how to properly clean after a fire, those kinds of things, and deodorize. There's very technical aspects, but in a lot of ways, those are the more mechanical, easier things to train somebody to do. Whereas soft skills, that interaction with other people, I guess that would be interesting to look up why they termed it soft skills. But, that ability to interact with people is a lot harder to train because you have to be dynamic, right? You have to, and I think, at least in my opinion, a lot of people, when you try to be something other than what you are, that's when you get yourself into trouble, right? And so rather than just being, hey, I am this and I'm going to interact with you that way and try to understand your perspective. You said in that regard, you said human connection. What is this? What is this human connection you speak of?
Human connection. And I'll be honest, it's harder for some people than others. Some people just naturally do it. And I have people that I work with that are way better at it than me. They just have a bleeding heart and will drop everything to listen to somebody. But human connection is big thing is sometimes you have to just sit there and listen to them. And you have to listen. Huge. You look for cues. Maybe you're not a deeply empathetic person. Not everybody is. I happen to I like this thing called StrengthsFinder, and empathy is in my top 5. So I feel a lot of things, but some people don't. But so you got to learn to recognize when somebody's angry or when they're happy, and it doesn't even have to be a feeling. You just try and reflect back what their tone. So if they're yelling and angry, you want to get calm and reassuring. Yeah. Listen, acknowledge that you really hear them. If they're really excited, you don't want to be boring and monotone. You want to
great. Yeah.
Go, hey, I'm thrilled that you're having a great day today.
Yeah. Well, we were just talking about that too. I remember one of my first mentors, big, tall guy, big and everything like that. And whenever somebody was pissed, he's like, we're going over there. And not to challenge him, but he's like, it's just crazy. Watch. They were pissed on the phone, yelling explicatives, whatever. And then you go over there like, hi, But, and some of that is the dynamic of the face-to-face. He was a big dude, so, it's a lot harder for people to be angry. But a lot of, exactly like you're saying, is I understand that you're upset. I'm upset too. That's not the way we want this to go down. So we're here. We're here to listen. And it's crazy, just in personal dynamics, having to learn, hey, do you want me to input on what you're talking about, or you just want me to listen right now, Yeah. And then that carries over in the professional world too, right? Or your own employees. Sometimes people just need to vent, and knowing, when to listen and when to interject. And, that's definitely a learned skill. I think we probably, like everything in life, we learn it most by when we make mistakes, right?
Yeah. I had a boss that gave me a really good rule of thumb. She said that anytime a customer calls you with a problem, they actually have 2 problems. They have just what you talked about with going and seeing the person in person. First of all, they're wondering if they can trust your brand still, and they're wondering if somebody's actually going to take care of them. And what happens if this company stiff arms me and I'm left having to find another company to do this, and I don't know where to go. So you gotta solve the problem of making sure they can trust you and know that you're going to care for them, and then only then do you start actually solving the real problem that needs to be fixed. So I really like that piece of advice I got a while back.
Yeah. Do I trust that you're actually going to solve it? Yeah. Well, that's good. Maybe I liked, you had a term about empowering contact center agents to empower customers. And maybe this kind of ties into that Tony Hsieh. I remember hearing him, I think it was on Built to Last with Guy Raz. And he talked about he's not even a shoe guy, So for those that don't know, I think everybody kind of knows Zappos has been kind of synonymous with online shoe sales. But what a lot of people forget is that wasn't a thing kind of prior to Zappos. I got to admit, like, I like to go to a store and touch the shoes and feel them, I very rarely order online. But, he was on there and he's like, I've got a pair of Asics and some flip-flops. I'm not even a shoe guy, but I'm very interested in customer experience. And that was what he talked about, was empowering your agents to solve problems, right? And if it's between taking a loss to solve a problem, he believed long term that would lead to better outcomes than trying to protect the bottom line. Has that been your experience? I guess a lot of that would depend on what organization you're working with, right? But so elaborate on empowering context-centered agents to empower customers.
Yeah, I think and one thing you have to realize about customer experience that gets talked about a lot in this, and backing up, oftentimes you might hear people use customer experience and customer service synonymously, but customer experience is like the customer's whole experience with your company. So
how they feel, right?
Yeah, throughout the entire journey, from when they learn about your company to when they get their product, in a box in the mail, or however your business model works. I know for me, when it comes to empowering my team, it starts with, it's funny, as a manager, I'm applying a lot of the customer service skills to my job that I'm expecting them to apply to customers.
Yep.
But it's about listening to them, listen to their frustrations, listen to what are the issues that keep coming up that they have to handle over and over again that are just repetitive. And, in the software world, maybe it's a bug that we can fix or a new feature we can come out with. Or one thing I've been doubling down on with my team is we're building an internal knowledge base. So rather than them having to ask a manager a question every time, we're documenting stuff. So they're just slowly but surely learning how to do more stuff.
Yeah.
There's no need to I think some managers, and you probably address this in the book that's coming up, but some managers feel this need to hold everything so close to them. If you peel some of those things off and give them to other people, then what are they going to do with their time? Yeah. But you really have to get rid of that and be a manager who wants to give more knowledge and coaching and help these people grow. Even if they grow into something outside of your company, you've helped them be successful. And so that's kind of what I think about. And that, when you're helping them build their career and take better care of customers, I think it's just a huge win.
Right. Yeah. Well, but that's so the way we've tried to communicate that, and it's difficult because I've been in a lot of, bottom line heavy companies, right? Where that's, all we talk about. It's really funny because you have, your values on the wall, right? And profitability is not one of the values on the wall, but every meeting we have, every training, every interaction, every time the manager's upset, it's always about profitability, right? Or revenue. And so, it's contradictory. And I'm not saying that's bad. I do believe you have to have two things to have a business. You have to have profit, right? You do not have a business if you're not profitable. It's just a charity or a hobby. And then you have to have happy customers. And so your inline employees, they don't have as direct relationship to profitability other than things like efficiency and that, but they do have a very direct impact with customer, like you said, customer experience, customer happiness. And so if you focus your training and your conversations around that, I think it goes this way. If we have happy customers, we can find ways to be profitable. But if we focus on profitability, we're going to struggle to ever create happy customers, So
yeah, and I think that's been a huge area of I think growth for me, and challenge is figuring out how to not. I think sometimes like the CFO or whoever's managing the books for the company worries that a great customer experience means you're going to give out a bunch of free service.
Yeah.
And so you can't lean on that. You got to certainly, if something goes wrong, you got to make it right for the customer, but you can't just give away the farm either. You got to balance it out.
Yeah.
But you have to understand, like, this customer experience stuff, if you do it well, you're building customer loyalty, you're getting word of mouth, all of that starts to kick in. And we use things like customer satisfaction or something like that to at least get a gauge on how we're doing. I'm sure there are other metrics out there to tie it more to your profits and whatnot. But
yeah, well, it's funny you say that free stuff, because we deal with a lot of companies where they want to, a customer. So in the insurance world, you're supposed to put them back to pre-loss conditions, right? And then everybody always like, I had sheet vinyl. What if I went to vinyl plank or hardwood or something? And there's a temptation. Yeah, we can take care of that. As opposed to, well, let's accurately capture the scope. Let's see what we do. And then once we get a budget and everything together, then we can see what's available, and I'm a firm believer on the back end. If you've got it, give people discounts. You should be accurately accounting, but too many people overpromise on the front end, under-deliver, and then you've already given away portions of your profitability. So then at the end, to make them happy, you're giving away even more. And free stuff, exactly like you said, if it's the number one thing people want is value, right? That you do what you say you're going to do, that you stand behind your product, and if it breaks, that you do what's right, So
absolutely.
Free stuff very rarely fixes it, and it sets the wrong expectation. I don't want free stuff. I just want the thing that I bought to work, or the thing that you said you were going to do to be done correctly. I don't need.
It's funny. I've worked for working for software companies. You occasionally deal with like an outage, and I worked at one company once where we had lots of outages, and I remember talking to the same customer on consecutive days saying, he's like, dude, you can keep your credit. I just want assurance that this isn't going to happen again tomorrow. Yeah. I'm like, man, yeah, it's really true. Like, you're going to have those people that are trolling you just to get free stuff and get money, but then most businesses just want they want to do business with businesses they can rely on. And
yep.
And that was a big revelation for sure.
Yeah, you can keep your credits. Yeah, just have your product work. Well, so you mentioned Tony Hsieh from Zappos. For those that don't know, just recently he passed away, and some of that story is still unveiling, and there's a whole lot of lessons to unpack there on the personal level too. But is there anything, as you're processing that, and you mentioned his book, highlights from what he uncovered and the success of Zappos?
Yeah, it's really sad, the passing of Tony Hsieh. And I think whatever comes out about the circumstances around his death, I don't think diminish his contribution to the customer experience community and the business world. He definitely left a legacy and had a lasting impact. It's just, on a personal level, you look at somebody like that and assume they're okay. And I think for me, it's a good reminder that we need to be looking out for each other and making sure we aren't lonely and things like that. But so on a professional level, I have a blog coming out soon about just some of the impact that he had on customer experience. And I asked some other folks that talk about this stuff on the CX question of the day. And I think a couple things that really surfaced for me, I talked about the meaningful connection, the whole slogan that is, you already alluded to it, but that we're a customer service company that just happens to sell shoes. And what if we did that with all of our industries? And I know for my company, my company NumberBarn, I think our mission statement is, hey, we sell phone numbers. How unsexy is that? But our mission is behind every phone number is a beautiful idea, person, or there's another word there that I'm forgetting. But how do we make those meaningful connections and help people accomplish what they want with that phone number? So realizing, constantly humanizing behind whatever you're doing in your business is important. And I think that the third thing, I actually just, on our team, I just hired somebody that worked at Zappos.
Oh, wow.
And so I've been kind of geeking out, like asking her questions, because they're like I used to joke that you could make a Zappos drinking game, that like every time you're in a keynote address at a customer service conference, they're going to talk about Zappos. And so don't make it a drinking game, because you don't the presentation. But there's a reason for that. And she talked about just like how much they worked on the employee experience, what a fun, fulfilling place it was to work. And they really got it. And I think, when you talk about profitability, I think you're just starting to see companies coming around to the fact that if you treat customers better, if you treat your employees better, you are going to be more profitable. And it's shocking. It's been hard to get a lot of executives on board with that. But I think Tony Hsieh really helped make that cool. And I think we owe him a debt of gratitude for that. Yeah.
Still obviously unpacking that, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, and so that, tie into, so if you're out there and you're struggling with these concepts, there's a groundbreaking new book coming out, 2021, Be Intentional Culture. You got two of the authors here. Jeremy's chapter obviously is going to be much more insightful and impactful than mine. A lot of fluff that I'm filling in just to make it a legitimate book. But the concept of the book, what we're all trying to is real people in real world situations, lessons that you've learned that either help enhance or undermine your culture. And it's funny how it's just a small twist, right? We were talking the other day, about a scenario where, a lot of, in construction, we want our guys to take ownership, right? Or our people in the field to take ownership, but then we don't give them all the details they need. I just wrote not shameless plug, but in my column on Restoration and Remediation Magazine, Garbage In, Garbage Out, the work order. So like if you don't give people the details they need to succeed, and then you want to say, well, how come you didn't succeed? There's a blip in the system. We're not setting them up for success and giving them the tools to say, okay, now this is mine. I don't have to rely on anybody for information. I can carry it through. So, and that was yours is, oh shoot, I had it on the tip of my tongue.
Basically, practice what you preach.
Practice what you preach. Yeah. So that's a direct quote, Jeremy Watkin. No one else has ever said that before. It's indicated right here in this book. And we've got the quote originator, but kind of a play. You mentioned your father was a preacher, so practice what you preach is kind of a dual pun, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So what's do you want to talk a little bit about your thoughts on practice what you preach, and without giving away too much, because obviously we want people to pay for this stuff, but because that's why we're in it for the money.
Yeah. So I won't give it all away, but I'll tell a couple stories. I think that that are kind of fun ones for me. I think I already mentioned that it took me about 12 years to realize that this was my career, not just a stop along the way. But I can remember one time, and I used to, when I talk about practicing what you preach, I'm talking about, integrity, not asking people to do things that you're not willing to do. And I was not, when I started out in customer service, I was not the model customer service rep. The average Joe customer who just wants to solve a problem, I could help them out. But the angry customer, I can remember throwing my phone once because this guy was yelling at me about his bill, and I was just like, I don't want to get yelled at right now.
Yeah.
But things like understanding that he's not yelling at me. He's yelling because he's frustrated, and I can be frustrated. I can be frustrated with him, but but it almost becomes a challenge where it almost becomes a game where you see how many of them you can talk off the ledge. Right. That's a really bad analogy. So I think about when I think about practicing what I preach, there was this one time early on in my career where we offered phone and email support primarily, and then the chat support started to become this up and coming channel. And now you might, as you interact with companies, you might be able to text, social media, all kinds of channels. And I think it's only going to get crazier. But I can remember early on, we didn't devote staff to handle chats. We would tell our team, hey, while you're on the phone, try and handle a chat.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
And so I'd be like, so I started getting pretty policey about it, I think.
Yeah.
Saying, hey, and we had a couple people who could actually do it and do pretty well, but then most of the team didn't, and they shied away. So you had some people that were doing a lot of chat and some that were doing almost none.
Yeah.
And so it was one day where I covered somebody's shift on a weekend, and I signed into chat and phone, and I inevitably started giving the answers that I was supposed to type into chat to the person on the phone and vice versa. Yeah. And I realized these are two live customers trying to talk to you. You can't have two conversations at once. You might be able to, if you're on the phone, if the customer's looking up information, you might be able to work on an email over on the side. But so I realized that my expectations were unachievable and unreasonable, and it's just a good reminder that when you ask somebody to do something, you better make sure that it's reasonable. And if you can't, and how often as managers do we just say, do it because I told you to do it, rather than really trying to dive in and look at their process for doing something and trying to actually find something that will really work, trying to make their life better, not worse.
Yeah.
So that was one thing for me. Do you want to hear another one?
Yeah. Okay.
So there's another point about integrity, and I can remember a time. Oh, no. This one, I guess that's kind of a little bit about integrity, but one about, is it another quote I came up with, do as I say, not as I do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So it's about admitting when your words and actions don't line up. I think I used a big fancy word, incongruent.
Whoa.
Trying to sound really smart, but and I think I learned this as I was working with a boss that was on the East Coast. There was one time where I was doing some work in the evening. I just needed to get some stuff done. Sometimes as managers, we do that. But I, for whatever reason, couldn't wait. I saw something come up and I emailed the employee in question and was like, hey, what happened here? I need to know. I got a frantic email response from her first thing the next morning, like, oh, I'm so sorry. I just saw this. And I know you wanted to hear about this sooner. And I realized that by me emailing her in the middle of the night, I created this expectation that basically my employee needed to work 24 hours a day. And on the other side of my mouth, I'm preaching that they should be, spending time with their family. They should be healthy, exercise, get a good night's sleep, enjoy watching TV instead of working, whatever it is. And then my actions are saying something completely different, that I'm working when I should maybe be having a little bit more of a balanced life. And I'm sending emails, sending them work to do when they're not even working. And I realize I've had bosses that do that to me too. And this is funny. We've had people that we suspected weren't actually working, but would like schedule emails at different strategic times so people thought they were working.
Oh, there you go. Gaming the system.
Totally unrelated, but really got me thinking about, like, if I want my team to be a certain way, I gotta communicate the right expectations, not only with my words, but with my actions, and realize how I'm coming off. Like, step back and go, okay, she was distressed for a reason. And I need to, as a leader, I need to be able to step back and realize that my actions caused that, at least to an extent.
Do you think that's one of my chapters to talk about, like, undercover boss and like a guy that, made it a habit to walk through the warehouse. So in, like you said, don't ask people to do something that you aren't willing to do. Do you feel like it's important? I'm imagining you don't take regular calls on most days, but do you think it's important for you to stay engaged with that skill set? Obviously, it's probably one that somewhat like riding a bike, but at the same time, you may not be as good as riding the bike if you're not practicing it. Do you think that's important in your field?
You know what? I struggled with this, really. It was probably like maybe 2010. So maybe like 10 years ago. So like halfway through my time so far in this career.
Yeah.
Where I felt like practicing what I preached meant that I needed to, if we got really busy, I needed to roll up my sleeves and do the frontline work. And I had a coworker at the time pull me aside and say, hey, you rolling up your sleeves and becoming a frontline worker in those moments isn't actually helping your team. Certainly, like, I still try and interact with customers to keep my skills sharp, because I don't really get to understand the pain points of my team if I'm not doing a little bit of the work and learning about the process. Yeah. But my job also, like, in a contact center, if we're really busy, I'm not going to be able to jump in and conquer the queue. I need to do other things, like figure out, do we need to hire more people? How can I train and empower the team to be able to handle more stuff so that they can resolve it with the customer rather than escalating? How can I add to our knowledge base so that customers can self-solve their issue rather than having to call?
Yeah.
How can I influence our programmers to fix that bug that people are calling about, or add this feature that a dozen customers keep calling and asking about? So really, like, it's been a hard balance for me to learn to, like, know how to be there for the team and know that, and have them know that I'm there for the team, but also step back and think strategically about how I can really make a lasting difference rather than fighting fires every day. Firefighting mode that probably has different connotations in your industry, but
yeah. Well, and that's I think that's a good way to put it, is, every day trying to think what is the most effective thing. And I think you embody that. I've, gotten away from even using the term leadership, but it's people in a position of leadership, right? Like, I hope every team that I'm with, my people understand my job is not more important than yours. It's just different than yours. Like, I am responsible, exactly like you're saying, like, you're responsible not necessarily to make those frontline calls. You're now responsible to make those frontline calls more effective, the tools and those kinds of things. So you're serving them, serving the customer in that way. And I think while undercover boss sounds like a good idea, exactly like you said, that may not be the most effective use of your time long term. It's probably not bad every now and again to dip your toes just to remember what it's like, in our industry. I think sometimes there's a temptation to, whether it's carpet cleaning or, hanging drywall or whatever. It is really fun for me, every now and again you stop by and do something like that, right? And, maybe not even for the team members, but for yourself, be like, yeah, I can still do it.
Oh, yeah.
But you can create other opportunities, whether it's like a service project or something like that, where you can do other things that are just as effective or even more effective in bringing the team together. So I think that's a really good point, Jeremy. So
I will say, like, sometimes, and this is more, it's different with now that we're working remotely, but just taking my laptop, if we're in a contact center, taking my laptop and just sitting out on the floor with the team, hear what they're talking about, hear what they're frustrated about. And sometimes we've even done that, like, had like a company owner or an engineer get out there and they'll go, "Are you serious? You have to do this every day?" Like,
yeah.
So you have to, like, get down. There's a word called it's called gemba, and I think it's a Japanese word.
Okay.
Am I just gemba? Yeah, and it's about getting down to the, like, for lack of a better term, scene of the crime, like getting out on the floor and actually really, like, understanding what's going on,
what the people are doing. Yeah. Well, that's what one of my spots, and I've tried to carry that through everywhere I go, is we used to have our techs. Ours is a lot of documentation, right? You have to document what you did. We get paid for what we document, not even necessarily what we do. And so we used to have a tech area, then our area. I moved an office where we had a big, like, conference table, and exactly that. In the morning, we could hand out assignments, and then at the end of the day, or as they came in during the day, we could hear what they're saying about their paperwork or get updates more in real time. It interrupted, what we were doing, but it also made us a lot more connected to, the pulse, and we can make more effective changes rather than just being down in a break room or something. So I think exactly that, like pulling a chair up and, just stopping on job sites, you see how your people interact with customers and things like that. And you feel good about it, or you can say, hey, maybe if you did this or this, that might help you,
And I'm seeing, like, when I still handle, like, escalated customers, but when I jump in now, it's not because I'm not the ringer expert that they're bringing in to fix it. I kind of am, but I also am going to bring somebody along with me. And, like, the goal isn't for me to show them, hey, I'm better than you, or you're not capable of doing this, but the opposite, like, you are capable of doing this. I'm going to model this for you because I want you to learn how to do this, and we'll all be better for it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you want your people to have ownership, and then when, shit hits the fan, you take it away from them. That just completely undermines that, right? We had that. I was listening to the phone call, and another project manager was taking it, had explained everything to the customer, and they're upset about like additional charges or something for legitimate work. And so exactly that, they were like, hey, can you help me with this? So I got on the phone with them on speakerphone and said, basically, like, do you disagree that we did the work? No. Do you disagree that the work needed to be done? No. So your only concern is the price? Yes. What about the price is your concern? Actually, I don't know. Like, and then, so, okay, well, this person is going to continue to work with you. If you have a specific issue with something about the price, we want to address that. We want you to feel like we provided the value. But if you're not disputing that the work needed to be done, that it was additional to our scope of work agreed upon, then, the only issue is price. And please advise, this person, like, what do you want to? So, like, that's a very, exactly like you said, because I've had it where somebody's taken the baton out of my hand, and it just feels terrible, like you feel like you're not capable or something like that. Because I think ultimately people want to do the right thing, and if you don't allow them to fail, people have to fail, right, to learn. So
Yeah.
I want them to flounder or drown, but well, I want to be mindful of your time. Is there anything that we missed or anything else you want to impart to the people? Our whole purpose is help people shorten their dang learning curve. So any other thoughts on customer experience, customer service, maybe something people should stop doing that you're noticing, and then something that really would help kickstart that whole?
I think, and I think I'm constantly amazed as I interact with customer experience folks, because customer experience is kind of this new buzzword.
Sure.
But it's this, and it's becoming this role in organizations. I have a book back here called Chief Customer Officer, where this woman has she kind of blazed a trail in customer experience where you're actually trying to get everybody in the organization to actually work together to understand, whether whatever your role in the organization, how your work impacts the customer. So you got to get everybody to understand that, and then work together to from A to Z, help the customer have the experience that you want them to have.
Yeah.
And I think one thing we constantly, and I'm, realizing it again today, that, you in the restoration industry and me and selling phone numbers, that it's business is business. And our goal is to get customers, care for them, keep them, make them happy. And it doesn't, regardless of your industry, there's stuff you can learn. So I think, and what I do on Twitter is all about finding a community of people that are committed to that are wanting to learn and find ways to just make a better experience for customers. And the funny thing is, you'll go on there and you'll see a lot of consultants talking about it. And one thing that I get told by consultants is they like reading my blog because I'm actually doing the work. And
yeah.
But, I've talked to plenty of consultants that treat their clients amazingly, and they're taking and applying these concepts they preach about to how they treat their clients. But we're figuring out, if you're running a contact center, how do you scale that to 10, 50, 100 people that are interacting with your customers to get them to realize the impact they can have and really put them in a position to succeed. So I think we shouldn't be afraid to talk about customer experience with people in all different industries. I talk about my minister dad, and I can't tell you how many things I learned, whether it's going to church with him on Sunday and watching how he would notice a new person that came in the door and intentionally try and make them feel welcome. That's not, there's nothing about Bible thumping there. That is just straight up good business.
Yeah. Customer service. Yep.
So, we constantly have to just open our eyes to the examples all around us of how we can learn and do our craft better.
It's funny you mentioned that. I'm reading this book, Service Master Story by Albert Erzman. I think I just butchered his last name, but the original founder was Marion Wade, and he is more of an operations guy or a technician. Had the vision for it, and I'm drawing a blank on the guy that he hired to kind of help take it to the next level and be the CEO. But that was exactly, they met at church. He was like an interim pastor. And that was exactly, every time there's a new person, they were always at the house, introducing them, trying to plug them into the community. And so that customer experience, customer service, played well into business. So, like you said, whether it's religion, nonprofit, a for-profit, call center, construction, whatever, there's universal principles, right, of creating a good brand, experience or whatnot. So. Well,
absolutely.
Thank you for coming on, and looking forward to. You can read more from Jeremy. Where can people find your blog?
So my blog is customerservicelife.com.
Customerservicelife.com.
And then if you want to connect with me on Twitter, at JT Watkin is my no S on the end of that last name.
There you go.
Oh, look at that. That is like on the fly.
Yeah. Pretty high tech around here at the DYOJO Podcast. So sweet. CustomerServiceLife.com, at JT Watkin. Definitely, I think I've interacted in the past on a few of those chats, and there's a lot of good stuff, like you said, that people bring up. So don't be afraid of Twitter, folks.
Yeah, just know how to use it.
All politics, right? Just that's, take everything from Facebook and just be more blazing. So
yeah, exactly.
Seems to be the recipe for success. So, all right, man. Well, thank you, Jeremy. You can also check out Jeremy's contribution to The Intentional Culture, coming out early 2021. DYOJO.com/book2 is where we're kind of got some info out there. And thank you for coming on, Jeremy Watkin.
Yeah, great to be here, John. I'm so excited to read the book. I read your chapter 2 and I really liked it. So I've awesome. At least read 2 chapters.
Boom. There we go. All right, man. Thanks, Jeremy.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, so there we go. We are on. This is our first The DYOJO Podcast. Typing this out. Episode 42 live. Oops. There you go. DYOJO Podcast, episode 42 live. So I wanted to do a couple of shout outs. I meant to do these at the beginning, but so we're brought to you by DYOJO.com, the Do Your Own Job Dojo. Hiya! Be Intentional Estimating is available. This is a book written by myself. Is available on Amazon Kindle and paperback. Also, the DYOJO.com book /book1. You can check out our South Sound Connection live every Tuesday, 9 a.m. Pacific time. That's on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube's. Shout out to Gordy Powell. He's got his first podcast, biocast411.com. He was a guest on episode 29 of the DYOJO Podcast, and he's just launched his more for the biological cleanup, that kind of thing. And then perhaps we finally innovated something before Jarrett Steer from GMS Podcast or Eric and Larry from the Blue Collar Nation Podcast. I think we're the first one to go live, but we're not the first ones to go live because Joe Hughes and Cliff Zotnick from IAQ Radio, they're the OGs of live. I mean, they were doing live podcasts before podcasts were even a podcast, when internet radio was still a thing for you young folk. So we also got shout out to Michelle Blevins. She's been doing the Ask the Expert with Restoration Remediation magazine. She was a guest on DYOJO Podcast 25. She's got Ed Cross on there, the restoration lawyer. John Downey's on there. He's a former guest of the podcast as well. And also Elon Posmonic, friends of the show, will recognize his Born to Repair tip of the week. He's got an upcoming equipment maintenance and repair seminar. I usually find him he's on YouTube or Facebook and Instagram at Born to Repair. So I think that is all our shout outs. You got the DYOJO Podcast, the infotainment podcast for the skilled trades. Let's see if I can make this outro work. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time. Now, when you started this podcast, you may have been thinking to yourself, "Oh my gosh, what is this?
Oh. What the hell are we doing here, Harry?"
But if you got through my intro and into the meat of whatever our guest was talking about, then you're like, okay, I get it.
Beneath a man, we find his nucleus.
Somehow, John, the DYOJO Podcast is able to attract people more talented and insightful than himself. Exactly. We are the Infotainment Podcast. We are here to help you shorten your dang learning curve for personal and professional development. And this guest who's over here did that. You're welcome. So you may be asking, how can we support the DYOJO Podcast? Well, you can like our page on LinkedIn. You can like our page on Facebook. You can like us on Instagram. The DYOJO, THE, that's how you spell the, DYOJO.com. Also, we are on YouTube's and Spotify's and Google Podcast, Apple, iTunes Podcast, Anchor Podcast. So you can listen, like. You can also buy this book. Seriously, buy this book. Help me feed my kids. Okay, if it's not for the content, which mediocre at best, think of the children. Okay.
Please, Bob. Give me. I need. Give me. Okay. Please. All right.
Okay, and this Be Intentional Estimating, the DYOJOpodcast.com/book 1, because there is a book 2 coming in early 2021, Be Intentional Culture, which is actually myself and, again, more talented people than myself helping contribute to how small things can either enhance or undermine your efforts to build a strong culture. So check the stuff out, like it, review it, tell your friends, have a listening party, because most places we can't get together, but we could do like a Zoom call. That's the reason we're trying to do the lives. Maybe we can get a little more engagement, interact with us while we're on the podcast. Because anyways, thank you for listening. You all are great. Most of you are great. A small percentage of you are great. The DYOJO Podcast. Thank you.
This is the stupidest thing I've ever heard.